There was an amazing moment on one of your recent podcasts that really captured that for me. Like all of the delicate balances that you need
Tiptoeing.
that you need to tiptoe. It was the infidelity episode.
That was,
And your guest was talking about
Any fallout?
You're gonna tell us who it was on the Patreon episode also. so keep. And he was talking about his. I'm gonna use a word here. Maybe if you're listening in the car or something with the family, he was talking about his like addiction to masturbation.
Yeah.
And to porn. And he was going like pretty into detail about it through like junior high and high school and Israel and after Israel, and then you went. I also struggled. And I was like, oh, like, is he gonna say it? And you're like, when I was in YU, I had this habit that I was very, very ashamed of. And I was like, oh my God, like, is Dovid gonna say that?
Drop it
on 1840?
Yeah.
Like, can he even do that? And you're like, whenever I was alone, I just had this urge to indulge in tobacco.
Oh, and I spoke about cigarettes.
And you talk about cigarettes. And
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that was perfect. That was perfect. It was like, it's
I
a
forgot
vice.
where that was going. I'm
It's
like,
a vice, but it's
I hear
like
his
an
heart
acceptable-
beating, Michael. I can hear his
Just
beating
sweating
right now.
through my
No,
Twillery suit.
you were the one that
No,
said
I know,
it.
but in the
Yeah.
moment, I mean,
Yeah.
is there trauma from that episode?
No. But I'm saying like you.
Short answer is yes, but
Okay. No. But it
That's
was-
why I'm watching here. I'm like, I don't know where we're going here.
But that was
gotcha,
important.
gotcha,
I think
gotcha.
that was an issue that, again, there are so many ways, and we need to return to that topic because there's so many people who are affected by it.
Yeah.
But there's not a person who has grown up in the world, in the Jewish community, outside the Jewish community, who knows somebody or a family that has broken up because of this issue. And we know that it's one of the 10 commandments, thou shalt not commit adultery. And I was not looking to uproot that one of those 10 commandments. If anything, I was trying to highlight the stakes of what happens to somebody who does cross that boundary. And the most important thing to me in that episode was the therapist who spoke afterwards. To me, that was the most important conversation I've ever had for my own life. To the willingness to
What was said by her that hit you?
Yeah,
the
I
most?
actually, I didn't. I think I stopped listening
You
after
stopped?
the interview. I didn't know there was
He
a
got
second
an
part.
urge.
I had to have a cigarette in the car.
that therapist who's absolutely brilliant spoke about how very often what draws people in is their sense of their struggle with their unlived lives, and looking out and feeling trapped in their own lives, and kind of they start imagining, and they have people in their lives that ends up metastasizing or could metastasize into adultery, because they keep on imagining the unlived. Who else could I have married? And we all live with those unlived lives. It's a really profound point. But one thing she said, and it stays with me every day. I asked her, "Give me a strategy to help people from straying." Everybody can have that. She says the goal is not to never be attracted or know that anybody else is attractive outside of your own spouse. I mean, we hope you could do that. Most people can't live by that standard. You have to keep on reminding yourself, why did you make the choices to get married in the first place? That doesn't mean that you have to throw out any desires or ideas that you had beforehand. You have to keep on reminding yourself, why did I start this? Why am I in this? What does it provide me? And
But what if you do it like this? Why did I start this? Why did I start this?
No,
Why am I in this?
There are
What did I do?
There are
Why did
marriages
I
that
make the
fail for
choices
other
I made?
reasons, but that you have to find those places that remind you of why am I living the life that I am living, rather than looking out and being distracted by all the unlived lives that we keep on getting reminded of.
And of course, Dennis Prager had a video I think I saw in one of his like little snippets that he released about being attracted to other people or finding attraction in other people, but choosing the person you're with over and over and over again. That makes it more sanctified in a sense. You're not denying the natural, humanity of yourself and the things that were built into our biology, but the conscious above that biology, choosing something much more meaningful over the long term, actually I think elevates it.
Correct. And I haven't written about it yet, but the very concept of unlived lives, of the what ifs of our own personal life, is something that I always think about. I think it's one of the most fascinating philosophical concepts. I have a whole stack of books on my shelf about it, and I think people need to contend with that.
Yeah, for the record, I don't follow really any of the drama or blowback. I didn't know there was blowback to that episode.
there was.
It was one of the most fascinating, and I listened to a lot of podcasts. It was one of the best episodes of podcast I've ever heard in my life.
that's very kind
I
of you.
really liked it. I thought it was really brave.
You got rid of the side chicks.
Yeah. And great that you did that. So
Thank
thank
you.
you from a listener. Thank you.
Your podcast on
appreciate
money too was one of the best ones. It was on a different show, but you spoke
Kosher Money, yeah.
Kosher Money.
I was
That
on
one
there.
was maybe one of the first ones I've heard of you before I started checking out 1840. But I was like, nobody talks about this stuff, specifically.
Down to earth basics.
I'm saying, there's topics in life. Money. It's like he's doing well.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
With all the euphemisms.
he's struggling.
They're very
It's
comfortable.
all just blanket statements. And I'm like, okay, but it would be helpful to get a little specific for all of us what we mean, because then we live in these amorphous like perceptions of
Correct.
people's success. And I was going to touch on a sort of another bigger idea that as we all kind of grow up and you start to kind of get these perpetual disappointments in things that are just inevitable with growing up, like you see people's shortcomings, you see somebody who you once admired, you realize, oh my God, turns out they were doing something behind the scenes that wasn't kosher. And you're like, huh. And I wonder if it just highlights the fact that, like, you always ask yourself, is this just like what life is supposed to be? Like, did my dad just not tell me as he grew up that this was going on behind the scenes and it was just kind of kept from me? Because every once in a while growing up, I remember I'd see like one of my parents' friends kind of walk into the house and I'd have to be like, Ami, upstairs. And I'd have to be sort of shuttled away from like adult drama that was going on. Come to find out later, they were going through divorce, or somebody had a drug problem. Oh, it turns out, Bobby was an alcoholic the whole time, and they don't tell the kids. But you put adults on sort of this pedestal, of like, oh, stability. They're like living adult life. And when I get to adult life, like I'll be past all this angst, all these problems. And as you get older, you realize, oh, no. It only gets harder. It compounds. And we're all just big kids at the end of the day. You just develop tools and mechanisms to deal with it. But the problems are there and the failures are there in adult life just as much. It's not like the adults have all the answers. So, just speaking short about it, like, adults don't have all the answers. So I just wonder if that's just a part of it, like you grow up and, or are you trying to tackle things that are like inherently problems, or are they just par for the course?
I think a lot of times I'm not looking to.
Does that make sense?
It does. Mm-hmm. I'm not looking to normalize the darkest parts of our life, but I am trying to, when a boat is sinking, God forbid, like in the Titanic, what they do is they shoot a flare up into the sky. So people could come and they can come and help. I almost look at that in reverse, that a lot of times if you shoot a flare up in the sky and say, this is a place, or I'm a person, or this is a community where we can talk and tackle some of these issues that maybe seem so much more natural to you when you were a child. I mean, think about your own parents' marriage, and now you're married, and I look at my own marriage now, which thank God is perfect. So obviously I'm like, oh, my parents. No, but you start to realize the texture and what was the layers and how was that produced, and then you go back and realize, you appreciate what your parents were doing more, because I don't think it's appropriate to take a 6-year-old and be like, by the way, mommy, we don't always like each other. You want to. The main thing that allows people to really venture out and look at the world is being raised at a young age with that trust and that sense of safety. And then when you're later and you're able to stand on your own 2 feet, you have to build depth upon that foundation.
I think parents do confuse that too, where they try to like too early say, we're going to tell like there's not a boundary set.
Yeah.
And there are differences in a child's development, as you see, where the important thing in the beginning is identity and a sense of stability and a sense of safety.
Correct.
Because children do need that. When you build up a sense of that and a sense of self-confidence and safety, then you go out into the world that's not stable and that's not safe, and you could deal with it. But I wonder also...
The Squid and the Whale, starring Jesse Eisenberg, written by Noah Baumbach, is a phenomenal film that depicts a lot of that struggle.
I'm familiar with it.
Yeah.
Squid and the Whale.
Squid and the Whale.
He hasn't done any serious work lately. That's the line from it, right?
I don't know this, so this is above my head.
You don't watch movies?
Not,
Is that true?
Not anymore.
He doesn't watch anything longer than 2 to 4 minutes.
That's why you're so good at Instagram.
Well,
I need
it's a
coaching.
gift.
That's why I'm here.
Michael, I want to say is wrong, but he's not. I want to say he's wrong. I when movies were the thing, I watched a lot of movies, and like that was the consumption, and I think I've just delved into short form full on in what I produce and what I consume. So that takes
So
up a lot of my
interesting.
downtime.
Gotcha.
But Michael's much more caught up on shows and series. A lot of stuff I want to watch. It's on my bucket list. Like I want to watch this whole series. But I'm not constantly consuming series, if I'm being honest. I'm watching clips and I'm watching TikTok and I'm watching like short form bits and stuff like that. And there's a plus and a minus to that. You know, like
to each their own.
It's an art form.
it does
It's a
drain
new
me.
art
I
form.
don't get as much like I think personal fulfillment, and I don't feel as good after like an hour
I
of
feel
TikTok
like I
versus
ate
like
a
watching
full
a real
bag
piece.
of potato chips for dinner after I am doing this
Correct.
for too long. I just don't feel
I
nourished.
think there's beauty in it, in a way, but like if you can, like I also do miss having the. First of all, like I love going to the movies, and my wife doesn't love going to the movies. She's perfectly happy to sit down and watch or whatever. So over the years, like with kids and everything like that, and like whatever,
it's impossible to go to movies.
It's like,
anymore. And it costs a
I
fortune.
do love.
Very rare.
So
There was,
Teaneck-
as a
Teaneck
pastor,
theater's great. Sorry to
Teaneck,
interrupt.
but it's like Teaneck movie theater is like a big television.
Yeah.
It's not even.
No,
I don't,
it's better
I don't
than
even know
it
if it's
used
like
No,
to
but
be.
you know, I feel
It's
a
better
real
than
sense of
these days.
accomplishment after like getting a movie in, because it's a
Oh.
rare thing for. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, and like I think movies overall have gotten so much worse. So like I think the track record of seeing movies and being like, man, that just I'm very picky. Mike used to be like, whatever, I got distracted. You know, he doesn't give a crap about if the movie's good or not. I care.
That's
He
not
wants
fair.
to say I'm wrong, but I'm not. We used to argue all the time. You're like, I thought it was good.
No,
Your standard was I distracted?
No, I
no
could-
critical eye, no
That's
critical
not true.
lens.
I could like one thing about a movie and think it's worthwhile. I could be like, that character was amazing. I don't care if the rest of it
There-
sucked.
there was
I
a-
liked that character.
And I loved action movies growing up, but the writing in action movies used to actually be there. There used to be like writing and character development.
90s
in the
action
90s.
movies.
I grew up on that stuff.
Was the golden age of
But I've
action
become
movies.
less of a movie buff and a series buff. I mean, there was a few. I've Game of Thrones, some of the Breaking Bad. I've consumed that, but I'm not caught up on everything. But the point is, I don't know this squid thing. Okay, so can we move on?
It's old anyway.
But in general, just like
a
there's
deep
only
cut, right?
there's only
Yeah,
so
that's
much
good.
free time as a parent and everything, and when you just want to just like mindlessly go, that's what happens. Okay, I get my phone and I deep dive on TikTok. Sue me. But I was gonna say also like with raising kids and education, like when
Yeah.
you're raised with like stability and protection, it seems to be that you're coming up against this downside of kids not being equipped with intellectually and emotionally and socially with skills that they might need to face the outside world. It seems like there is a disconnect. Like an understanding of their relationship with God, with their community, with ritual, with practice. Like, can you highlight a little bit of the areas you're seeing that you know, you can only show what's revealed in the failures or the shortcomings of an upbringing in real time?
I think for me, when I look back at
was that
my
for a segue?
childhood, and they weren't. When I look back at my childhood, the standouts for me were my parents explaining to me for a young age about mental health and anxiety. Fifth
Yeah.
grade. That's pretty young.
They
but
broke that down.
They broke it down for me. They told me they got into family history and they spoke about it in a very real way, which really helped me understand that it's okay to seek help. That's fifth grade. That's very, very young. But it always felt like I was walking around with this like knapsack of anxiety.
We're talking anxiety, specifically.
Weighing me down. Anxiety, depression. And the other thing is my mother was incredibly gifted at picking phenomenal books for me to read that helped me process my own childhood, and she would read to me. My mother was a big reader. Got me into reading. Marvin read Post Why Pick on Me. Was like, I don't know if you ever read that book. It's a killer book. I don't know why it's not more popular. Molly's Pilgrim. I mean, there are certain children's books that I would read over
I
and
was
over
a
again.
Spark Notes kid.
Spark
at
Notes
best.
guy, Spark Notes
forget
guy.
it. Forget it. Didn't
I
start
read
to
as a kid. I read a lot as a
You
kid.
did.
Yeah,
I
I
didn't.
stopped in high school and then I read.
I
I
love
think my
the
first-
duo of you two.
I think I read my first book at 18. It was. I can't even say what it is. I said it on the Lizzie.
What was
episode.
it?
Shmuley Bateas, Kosher Sex.
That was the first
your
book
first
you
book?
read?
Yeah, and I read it every week.